we have with us the GAC GS8. Let's do a review. The GS8 is GAC Motor Philippines' flagship SUV offering aimed at premium buyers. We already reviewed the first generation and we loved it so much. So let's see how this new second generation does. What we have is the only variant of the GS8, the GT 4x2, which is priced at a very competitive 2,298,000 Philippine pesos. Now, the GS8 has changed a lot. Looking here in front, it gets a very imposing front fascia with a huge front grille with GAC signature V pattern. This is flanked by its very good looking 4-bulb LED headlights. The side then shows off how much bigger this actually is. It's actually 5 inches longer than the previous generation, and we also get cleaner lines here as well. We also have larger 20-inch alloy wheels with a star shape hidden in it. These are wrapped, by the way, in Maxxis tires. And towards the back, we get more of an evolution compared to the previous generation, but much more premium and stately than before. The LED taillights feature a really eye-catching pattern, and we also get some sporty touches like dual exhaust pipes. May I also add that the ink seal green exterior color on this one perfectly matches the vehicle. And do take note that this features a truly automatic tailgate. Just stand behind the vehicle with the key fob for about 5 seconds and it will open. And once open, you will get space you would expect from a vehicle like this, both with the third row up and of course when it is down. And now we're inside the GS8, and as you can see here, it is a huge departure from the previous generation. So everything here has been changed, so it looks nothing like the previous generation had. So first, you can see we have some screens here. This is really big one in the middle, which we'll talk about in just a bit. And then materials are also much more improved. So we have some really nice soft touch plastics here in the dashboard. This one's a piano black piece over here, then some of this textured trim over here, which also looks really premium. Same with the door panels, we have some nice soft touch plastics on top and also lots of leather on the sides. So that's all really good. Then also the build quality is actually really nice. It feels very solid, so that's something that some other vehicles from China actually can't offer. So this one feels very solid, which is something that only GAC so far has really offered, or rather they're one of the best that you can find. Then the design itself is very modern, so it's very nice to see. And then we have here a really huge steering wheel. So it's really thick, it has white stitching, leather wrapped of course, and then it's also tilt and telescopic, so it offers a lot of adjustment as you can see, so that's very helpful. And then we also have here our adaptive cruise controls on the left and our audio controls on the right. We also have some paddle shifters over here, so we no longer have that problem with the old GS8 that you have to put it on sport mode and paddle shifters. Now you can just shift with using the paddles right away. Then for the horn, it's your typical European car horn, which is very typical of Chinese cars as well. And also right here we do have this rather small 7-inch digital instrument cluster. So we have a small screen right there with our temperature and fuel gauges on both sides. And again, it is rather small, but it does look really good, although the sides are quite thick. It has very thick bezels, but at night you won't really notice it. And also you can change the view, so we have here our trip computer and other stuff that we can really use, but we don't have settings like that, so they're all here in the larger screen. And also I noticed that it is a bit laggy when it comes to its operation, so that I think they could improve that in the future, or maybe instead put a larger digital instrument cluster here. Then going back to the center screen right here, so we have a really large 14.6-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Unfortunately, we don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which according to the people at GAC, it should actually have, but this one doesn't have it. So anyway, let's talk about what we have here. So we have the really huge GS8 in the middle, and it's very responsive screen, so it's very easy to use actually. GAC has always had really easy to use screens, so it's very responsive. It's very easy to find everything that you need, although there are more menus than there should be, but at least once you do get used to it, it's very easy. And pretty much everything in the car you can control here, from opening the sunroof, adjusting the side mirrors, you can all do that here, although they still offer the typical way to adjust. Anyway, this also has our display for our 360 cam, so just press the button in the center console and it displays there, so it looks very HD. Even at night, it's actually really bright and very easy to use. Then we also have here our climate controls, unfortunately, because still I really want brands to stop putting them in the infotainment system. Instead, please just put your normal climate control. So again, they're here, so it's tri-zone actually, so 2 here in front and 1 in the back, and everything is adjusted here. Fan speed, your different zones, temperature, everything is here. And it does take some time for the screen to boot up when you just start the car for the first time, so you will have to wait for that, especially on a hot day. Although we do have this auto button right here, but that's all that we have for the climate controls. Also, we have here our ventilated seat controls. So we have heating, ventilation, and it's actually very easy to use, but still a button would be nice somewhere here in the center console instead, and the heated seats do work pretty well. Then moving down, again, we have that auto button for our climate control. We have some storage over here. Then we have our wireless charger right there, so we can charge our phone wirelessly. Then also, I'd like to add that this material they use for the center console is pretty nice. It's like a faux wood trim, and it really feels nice to touch. So at least they didn't put excessive piano black plastics. Instead, they put this very nice material right here. Then also here we have two cup holders, our very nice electronic gear shifter with some kind of crystal pattern which makes it look more unique. And then also our start stop button here, our drive mode selector, our electronic parking brake with auto hold, and our 360 cam button again. Then over here inside the armrest we do have a really large amount of storage right here. It does open really nicely, although it does make a little bit of noise, but yeah. Then underneath the console, by the way, we also have a really large storage area. So we have two USB ports over there, and again, lots of space to hide some stuff. Now, if there's one thing that this thing could really improve here in front, it's the infotainment system's grammar. So there are a couple of things here that kind of sound weird, so it uses Chinglish instead. So also, going back to the ventilated seat controls, we do have, instead of seat ventilation, we have seat ventilation. So that is kind of weird. Unless there's a correct term, just let me know if it's correct, but for me, it's kind of weird. And also here in the instrument cluster, we also have, when you turn on the adaptive cruise control, it says here cruise control be working instead of cruise control is working. So it's kind of slang, so the car feels like it's a rapper. So cruise control be working. Anyway, let's go back to the good stuff. So we have here our really nice leather wrapped seats. They're very supportive. They have lots of adjustment. We also have lumbar support for the driver, also with white stitching and that white piping over here, and even this diamond stitch pattern for the middle, and it's perforated, of course, because it is heated and ventilated. So very, very nice. I really love how these seats feel, and we'll talk about more a little bit later of comfort when we're on the road. And of course, being the brand's flagship SUV, the back seat is probably the best place to be in this vehicle. And as you can see here, I do have loads of space, so leg room, knee room, headroom, everything is really expansive. So no problems here. I can even stretch my legs all the way under the front seat. For reference, I'm 5 feet and 7 inches. And then the seats themselves are also really comfortable. They're really soft. They feel really nice. We have the same materials as in front. They didn't cheap out on that. Of course, they won't. And we also have a center armrest right here, although I do think it is a bit too small. So there is that, but I guess that will do. And also, I forgot to mention that we do have some mood lighting on the doors and the console in front and the dashboard. That all looks really nice. And also, we have this really big panoramic sunroof which really brightens up this space. So it's already big here, and we even have this, so it feels way bigger than it already is. And of course, air vents on all sides, some light here, and our controls right here in the middle for our rear aircon. And also, we have a very flat floor, so that also helps in making this more spacious again, because we can actually fit 3 passengers, 3 adult passengers my size probably, that can all fit here. So now let's check out the third row. Now we're here in the third row of the GS8, and honestly, space is a bit non-existent here if you're seated over here, with the second row seats pushed all the way back. But here, in my case, they are a bit moved forward, so there is a little bit of space. Although you cannot stretch your legs, you cannot put your legs, or your feet rather, under the seat in front of you. But at least we do have plenty of knee room as long as the seat is moved forward. Headroom is pretty okay, so we have about an inch or two for me. So again, I'm 5 feet and 7 inches. And then here we do have some lights, and also third row passengers aren't forgotten. We have a air vent on both. We have air vents on both sides, and cup holders as well, 4 actually, so we can have lots of drinks here for the children. Then the seat itself is pretty okay as well. It's not the most comfortable, it's pretty flat, but it will do, especially for children. So this is actually our first time driving this second generation GAC GS8. So we've already test driven the previous generation, and we really like that one. I think this one we're really also gonna like this. But first, let's talk about the engine. So this is powered by a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine that produces 248 horsepower and a very healthy 400 Newton meters of torque. So that's a huge increase compared to the previous generation, and it's also paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, so when we have 2 extra gears now. Compared to that one, you can really feel the difference of that, and it's really smooth. That's what I really like about the GS8 is how it drives actually. So this engine, it just feels really good. So it provides a lot of power, it provides a lot of torque. You can really feel the torque whenever you do accelerate, and despite this vehicle being quite heavy, that is not the case with this engine. So it has more than enough to keep the vehicle moving. Another thing I was surprised about is that this has some throttle sensitivity settings, so you can actually adjust that depending on how you'd like to feel the acceleration of this vehicle, I guess. And that's something that I did put it on number 1. I think that means it's the highest, so as soon as you do put your foot down, it does respond immediately. The shifts are really smooth. I actually thought that this still had the same transmission as before because that was really smooth, but yeah, it has a different transmission now, and it still feels the same way. I'm not sure about the 0 to 100 acceleration time of this vehicle, but it is definitely quick, and also the 2-liter engine sounds really good. So let's listen to that. Don't know if you heard it, but it does sound really nice. And then when it comes to handling, it's another thing that was really improved as well, because the old one, it did drive well, but handling was not exactly the best. But now we do still have really light steering. Of course, it's a Chinese car, so it's very light, but this one does have in typical GAC fashion, it does have steering sensitivity settings. So we have it on a heavier setting right now. It's a bit more weighted compared to the normal setting, and this is my preferred setting. While it doesn't provide all the feedback that you want, it does provide enough feedback that's just right for driving comfort inside the city. Also, it seems that body roll has been decreased, so it does feel better in taking corners. And yeah, so there's really not much to say about the handling. It's just really good. Then when it comes to ride quality and NVH insulation, that's where this vehicle really excels. So it's a really quiet place in here. I'm sure you can hear it right now that there's hardly any noise coming into the cabin. Road noise, wind noise, and even the sounds of the bumps, you don't really hear them. So it's really quiet. Then the ride itself is very smooth. The suspension absorbs the bumps really well. All the road imperfections, it's just flawless in that regard. Visibility is also really good in this vehicle. As you know, I already mentioned that this is way bigger, or not way bigger, but it is bigger than the previous generation, and it is a big vehicle. And still, despite that, we still don't have a hard time taking this on narrow streets because we do have these really large windows, really large windshield, and the overall shape of the vehicle actually helps when it comes to visibility. And then also we have the 360 cam that I showed you earlier as well, so that also helps a lot. As for fuel economy, you don't really expect vehicles like this to save fuel for you, but we are able to achieve a decent 8 kilometers per liter when driving inside the city with somewhat of traffic. So I wasn't able to take this on the highway as much, so I won't be giving the fuel economy number for that, but inside the city, 8 kilometers per liter, it's a pretty good number already. And another huge change or improvement that this has compared to the previous generation is driver assistance. So we now have adaptive cruise control and some other stuff like lane departure warning, lane keeping assist. So finally this gets those, but we are lacking blind spot monitoring, which I think would still be helpful despite having all those and despite the good visibility. The GS8 truly is the best that GAC can offer. It's a head-turning, extremely comfortable, great to drive and ride SUV that offers plenty of features similar to its rivals but at a way lower price. As to its acceptance in the market, we're hearing great things about this model's sales, so I guess we'll be seeing a lot more of this on the road.